WBTV, on your side. WBTV News starts right now with breaking news.
And breaking tonight, crowds of protesters marching through Uptown demanding justice after a CMPD officer shot and killed a man. And tonight, a shooting during those protests.
And all new law enforcement sources confirming to WBTV this photo showing Keith Scott on the ground, and next to him, sources telling us is the gun that they say they recovered there at the scene. Several breaking developments in this story. Good evening and welcome. I'm Molly Grantham.
And I'm Jamie Bull. In tonight for Paul Cameron. Let's start with live pictures from Sky 3 over Uptown Charlotte, which has been the focal point of the protests tonight. As you can see, sparks have been flying. Is this from earlier? This is not live, right? This is videotape from earlier. Guys, help me out. These are live pictures. I apologize. It didn't say on the screen, but we are seeing more of those flashbangs, more tear gas perhaps being fired as these protests have been going on for 2.5 to 3 hours now, where they turned from peaceful protests into something else more violent.
We have been following this for hours. We are on your side with complete live team coverage. Let's start with Sarah Blake Morgan, who has been with these protesters all night long. Sarah Blake, what do you have?
Yeah, it was pretty quiet for the last hour or so, at least from police. We weren't seeing any tear gas or flashbangs, but in the past minute, we saw a flashbang go off, people running in this direction. But that's what we've been seeing all evening. Police have been trying to push protesters out of the epicenter area. They've been using tear gas to do so. Once the gas clears, the protesters go back. Now, there's significantly less protesters than there was earlier, but I'll tell you that the looting and the destruction of Uptown that I've seen tonight has been shocking. Now, people have been picking up pieces of bricks like this, and they've been throwing them. If you look over there, those windows completely shattered, and that scene all across Uptown. Windows smashed. I watched as people threw rocks through those windows. We were just a few feet away earlier tonight when looters smashed out the windows of a convenience store near the epicenter and ran inside. So it's absolute destruction. This is exactly what the peaceful protesters were asking did not happen. The family of Keith Scott also asking tonight that these protests stay peaceful, and they did for quite some time until they took a turn about 90 or so, 2 hours ago, and then we've seen some chaos. It's going to take a while for Charlotte to clean up from this, because you can see people running, so we're going to send it back to you. I'm not sure what's going on, but we'll send it back to you in the studio.
Be safe, Sarah Blake. Be safe.
Yeah, let's bring down that shot. Let's get Sarah Blake moving. Now, in just the last hour, we received a statement from Governor Pat McCrory about the protests in Uptown, and he says, quote, "The State Highway Patrol is sending in troopers to further help the Charlotte-Mecklenburg Police Department. The state has many additional assets nearby to assist." He adds, "Any violence directed toward our citizens or police officers or destruction of property should not be tolerated."
We're going to go to our Colleen Harry. We said we had team coverage, and we have crews all over Uptown Charlotte. Colleen Harry is live right now, and we're going to you guys when you tell us you're in a safe position to talk, not in danger. You're turning around and looking, Colleen. What do you have going on behind you?
Well, I see the crowd running, and I know police have been strategically moving the crowd along. I just saw a crowd of people running along. If you take a look, Molly and Jamie, you can see the smoke. I'm not sure if it's... I don't want to guess. I'm not sure what exactly happened. I can see the smoke going out here on Trade Street. A lot has been happening here on Trade. We're across the street from the Hyatt House, where we saw a young man kick in the front door, the front windows. The crowd seems to be just mulling around here. CMPD moving them along quite strategically, as I mentioned, but they're still out here, guys.
Yeah, we will have to wonder if maybe the patience has worn out and it is now time to begin to clear the streets, because there was this time here for an hour or so where it seemed like things, I don't want to say they were calm because that's not the right word for it, but we didn't see these types of pictures where the tear gas was back out in the streets of Uptown. But clearly something has changed where they are attempting to clear at least this part of the Uptown. We know one person was shot during the protest. We were live on the air for the chaotic moments near the Omni Hotel. The CMPD chief said earlier that that person had died. City later, though, corrected that, I should say, that the person is on life support in critical condition. CMPD says it was a civilian shooting a civilian. CMPD did not fire the shot.
Well, we got here about a half hour ago. One of the first things we saw when we walked up here in Uptown was a photographer. We can't tell exactly where that photographer was from, what outlet he was from, but he was knocked out completely cold, laying in the middle of the street. There were several CMPD officers that came up and they were able to haul him off to safety, but it's kind of part of the cycle of violence that's been going. I'm going to turn around and actually let you look behind me so I can keep my eyes on the situation here. It's sort of a cycle that's been going on. There'll be maybe 5, 10, 15 minutes of just a lull, people standing around talking, and then all of a sudden you'll hear an explosion or a bang or a pop. Some people are throwing rocks every now and again. Every few minutes you'll see people just start running pretty randomly, but as of right now things are fairly calm. I know it might look pretty intense, but at this particular moment, and I stress moment because 30 seconds from now things could quote pop off again as they've been doing throughout the night here. But you can see actually there was a pretty big explosion there. We're going to take a step back as the crowds are starting to come this way, and again this is what we've been seeing throughout the night here. Yeah, we're in a safe spot right now. We are watching some of the folks again come this way. A lot of the people will come running over in this area. Actually, we're going to go ahead and send it back to you guys right now.
Kristen, that's a good idea. Send it back to us. And of course, stay safe. You know that's going to be our first question.
You know, we've been talking about that person who was shot during the protest in Uptown Charlotte tonight, a civilian by another civilian. And initially there were reports where that person has died. Then everyone had backed off of it, saying they'd had bad intel. The person was still, in fact, alive. Medic now tweeting out sort of an apology for that misinformation, saying the information provided earlier was incorrect regarding the gunshot wound victim from the rioting in Charlotte. That patient is confirmed as being in very critical condition at this time. Our sincere apologies for the bad intel. So still very much a fluid situation, but we wanted to make sure that we got that out there.
We continue to follow the breaking news here on WBTV. A second night of protest turns into a second night of violence here in Charlotte. The focal point, the Uptown area, the center city tonight, where there have been arrests, there has been a shooting, and there continues to be violence and broken glass and windows and vandalism going on. And now we are just hearing from Governor Pat McCrory that he has declared a state of emergency. This upon the request of the Charlotte-Mecklenburg Police Chief Kerr Putney. The governor has also initiated efforts to deploy the North Carolina National Guard and the State Highway Patrol to assist local law enforcement. The ACLU urging police to release any footage that they have of the shooting, whether it be from those body cameras or dash cameras inside the patrol cars. CMPD police chief says state law prohibits him to release the video, but we've learned that part of the law doesn't go into effect for another couple of weeks, so we are still trying to sort that out to see what part is the public record.
And we have 4 different crews in Uptown Charlotte. Sarah Blake Morgan is one of them, and we are talking to our reporters when they say they're in a safe place. They're practicing caution that they're not going to be in danger. Sarah Blake Morgan, tell us where you are right now. And last time we talked to you, you had to send it back to us because people were running your way. What's going on now?
Yeah, there were a lot of people running away, and pretty much all night people have been running away when police set off flashbangs or tear gas, but then they've been going back. But I don't want to speak too soon, but I've seen a lot of people heading to their vehicles, leaving the scene. There's not many protesters out here, at least where I am right now. It seems as if things are slowing down, but you can hear another flashbang behind me. Over to the side here, this is CMPD headquarters. You can see police officers in riot gear guarding the parking lot, making sure that nobody can get in there, because earlier there were protesters that walked into that parking lot and surrounded CMPD headquarters. But let's walk down the sidewalk so you can see how this area has emptied out. But if we heard a flashbang, that means that there's still protesters in there. They've slowly tried to work them out of the epicenter area, and that is where all of it went down. That is where it became violent. It turned from a peaceful protest to one that was violent. There was a lot of looting. I spoke about that a few minutes ago. I watched people smash windows. We showed you some of those windows. They were picking up rocks and bricks. There was a lot of anger. I said this earlier, but people were hoping for peace tonight. People were hoping for peaceful protests. That is what we did not see yesterday, and we again did not see that tonight, despite calls from Scott's family to stay peaceful and keep how the marches were earlier, with just marching through the streets. That did not happen. The looting is pretty bad. It's going to take a while for Charlotte to clean up, and we'll see how long it takes for these crews to get these final lingering protesters out.
Continue to watch the live pictures here from Sky 3. This is not over yet, folks. There is still damage going on to buildings in the Uptown. CMPD on scene trying to clear the streets right now. Keep it right here. We're going to keep you updated.
We continue to follow the breaking news happening in our city of Charlotte, in the heart of Charlotte in Uptown. This is breaking news. Violent protesters. There are fewer people in Uptown. That is worth noting. We've been following this 4 hours. Started out peacefully, and then about 8:30, shots were fired. Someone was taken with critical condition to the hospital. They are on life support. Looting of Time Warner Cable Arena. We've seen windows broken, businesses broken into, and people now milling around almost as if they're waiting for something to happen. Lots of tear gas and officers in Uptown as well.
Let's go to the ground now. Our Alex Giles is live at Davidson and Trade in the Uptown. Alex, what's going on?
Well, Jamie, Molly mentioned people waiting around for something to happen, possibly. They may not want to wait much longer. I can tell you in the last couple of minutes, we just heard the police over the intercom in English and Spanish telling the crowd that it is time to leave. They said that if you remain here, you will be in violation of the law. I'm going to step out of the way so you can once again take a gander up Trade Street here. We're near the intersection of Trade and Davidson. This crowd appears to be still assembled near the intersection of Trade and Caldwell. We can see what looks like a line of police officers from here. You guys might have a better vantage point from Sky 3 and some of our other live cameras. They're right near the Hyatt House Hotel. It's the same area where we've seen graffiti spray painted on windows. Protesters trying to bash their way into some of the buildings in that area and also attack one of the members of the media who had to be carried away by police officers in this area. The officers are still out here. We've seen the flashbangs go off. We've seen the gas go off. And now for the first time, we've heard them actually come over the intercom and tell them in English and then repeat it in Spanish that it is time to get out of the area. They said anyone who does not leave this area will be in violation of the law. It is the first time we've heard them actually give that verbal command out loud. It'll be interesting to see if any more action has to be taken in the next few moments here. We'll continue to monitor the situation here in Uptown. Jamie, Molly.
Brigida Mack has been following things online. Lots of this playing out on social media. And Brigida, you just got off the phone talking with people at the Hyatt House?
Yeah, I just called them here in the commercial break because we were hearing reports that 2 employees had been assaulted by protesters tonight in Uptown Charlotte. So I finally just decided to call them and see if we could get confirmation. You see someone there trying to kick in the door, and I did confirm, spoke to someone at the front desk at the Hyatt House Hotel. That's right there next to Time Warner Cable Arena, and 2 employees were assaulted by protesters tonight. The good news is they should be okay. That is what the person who answered the phone told me. He was trying to help with that situation, so he couldn't stay on the phone long, but I stayed with him long enough to confirm that 2 employees were in fact assaulted by protesters at the Hyatt House Hotel tonight. But the good news is they should be okay. But just more startling images. You saw it there of folks spray painting that area, trying to kicking in the doors. They didn't try to, they did. So that's the very latest that we have. Back to these live pictures, though, from Uptown Charlotte. Crowd seems to have thinned out, but it's still an issue. One of the other things, Molly and Jamie, that I'm seeing here on Twitter is that from folks who are covering it, our news partners with the Charlotte Observer, is that CMPD is telling these protesters to move back, to disperse, or they will face more tear gas and flashbangs.
What?
I saw something being thrown at one of those vehicles there. I can't tell if it's a squad car or not. The white vehicle you see right above where it says breaking news. Something was thrown as that vehicle was going through the intersection, bounced off of it. So I think a motorcycle going through the intersection as well.
It was almost like an ATV type motorcycle recklessly driving through the intersection. I thought it was the opposite, you know, almost like it was going to hit the cars. They were going to go head on, although it sort of weaved around and went around it.
We continue coverage here on WBTV of another night of violence here in the city of Charlotte. Tonight it is in the Uptown. This following a CMPD officer-involved shooting that left 1 man dead, and questions about what led to that shooting has sparked 2 nights now of protests that then turned violent. That's what we are seeing here. Live pictures from the Uptown. CMPD in full tactical gear attempting to clear the streets. Videotape here from Sky 3 from just a few moments ago when we saw one of those flashbang or tear gas canisters come flying into the scene right there and exploding off of the ground. It has been a frightening night. We have seen 1 person shot. We have also seen vandalism and damage to several buildings in the Uptown, including the arena, including the Hyatt House Hotel. It has been a scary evening in the city of Charlotte, something we really have never seen before.
Here we go. This is Sky 3. People are moving. It might be winding down where you are because people are moving. This is heading towards I-277. And as we had just mentioned before we went to Sarah Blake, that is a very expansive area in Uptown and harder to patrol because it isn't just one main street. It looks, Jamie, like they're throwing things on 277.
Yeah, as we're hearing, they're throwing rocks. You see vehicles going by, perhaps throwing at those vehicles. People walking across the street. This has gone well past, I guess, what we would call protesting, right? Because that's not what we're seeing here. We have small groups of people who now appear intent on vandalism and destruction. And now we have a vehicle stopped there in the middle of the road. And boy, it just gives us all pause because we don't know what's going to happen.
Those people in the car. Oh my gosh,
and now
just drive.
Yeah, I'm going to pull away from that scene. And we're not sure what this is all about, but you can see, we can see the helicopter is high above the NASCAR Hall of Fame, not too far from this. We'd heard there were some people gathering near that area as well. Folks walking down the highway right now and down the roadways. And again, this is another vehicle that is slowing down other vehicles. Folks, if you know of somebody who for some reason would be heading towards the Uptown, whether they live up there or for some reason have to work overnight in the Uptown, or just heading maybe towards East Charlotte, towards Independence Boulevard, just tell them to find another route. Just stay away from the Uptown right now.
There is a car that's stopping there right now, Jamie, or two cars, or is it just one? Just going slow, trying not to hit someone, maybe not having no idea what they're getting into, no idea why there's people on I-277. Last night, groups of protesters / rioters went into I-85. It was way later, you could say wee hours of the morning. It was more like, I don't know, 3:30. They were throwing rocks at vehicles. They were not in the middle like this trying to stop vehicles.
No.
And they did set a tractor trailer on fire. The question is, are these people even protest? Do they know what they're protesting?
Yeah, we don't know.
That's always the question, that you have people coming out because they do have something to say. They have opinions. They do not think the shooting yesterday was justified by CMPD, and they want to come out and peacefully protest and say, we have another narrative we want to get out there. And then you have others that come out and just join the fray. Agitators, police call them. And right now, this car is stopped on I-277. You're looking at live pictures from Sky 3, maybe 50 to 75 people that have walked here from Uptown. We had just said Uptown is a hard place to monitor because there are many side streets you can run down. Is it police putting cones in 277 or the protesters putting cones to keep cars from driving?
Not clear. Hard to say. The problem now, as people are being dispersed out of the Uptown, they are scattering, and this is over 277. That's the belt loop. If you're not from Charlotte, don't come to Charlotte very often. That's the sort of the highway that wraps the Uptown. And some of these folks are scattering about. We know train service and probably some of the public transportation is not running. We don't know how folks got downtown, if they got a car or found a ride. They walked in, they took the bus, who knows. But now they're scattered about here in the Uptown and blocking traffic. As Molly pointed out, they did it on Interstate 85 last night, where we saw traffic backed up, and then we did see one of the semis that was stopped, and people broke into the back of that big rig and began to light things on fire. There's one vehicle, so you can only imagine what that driver is thinking to themselves. I'm trying not to hurt somebody.
Is that police up there, Jamie? That's a second vehicle. Did protesters stop that vehicle, or is it police? I cannot tell. It looks
dark. It's hard
like
to say.
It's not a patrol car, but it is hard to tell. These are live pictures from Sky 3. We apparently have Governor Pat McCrory on the phone right now. Governor McCrory, thank you for talking with us. You're talking with Molly Grantham and Jamie Bull. I assume you're in Raleigh.
I am in Raleigh. I was in Charlotte earlier, but my heart bleeds for what our great city is going through right now. And we've declared a state of emergency at the request of your good chief of police. We've been waiting for that. We had earlier conversations today and told them that we'd let us know when you need further help. And they called up about 35 minutes ago and said, now's the time. So we're having the Guard come in to the city and getting directions for deployment by the chief of police. And we're also having troopers come in to help supplement some of the fine work that the Charlotte-Mecklenburg Police Department is doing. My prayers are with especially the men and women of the police department right now because they're under a great deal of pressure. But I'll tell you this, we cannot put up with violence or destruction of property, especially violence directed toward our police right now.
Part of that declaration, because of the logistics of this, we've been watching the officers all evening long doing their best to contain the situation in the Uptown. We're watching live pictures right now. I know you can't see them on 277 just outside of the Uptown. Now we have a secondary scene where people are trying to block the roadways. We see vehicles trying to get through. It just becomes too difficult for just the Charlotte-Mecklenburg Police Department to handle this entire thing.
Yeah, and part of the dilemma, Jamie, is social media has changed everything regarding these types of incidents. Back when I was mayor from 95 to, how long was I mayor, Jamie? 2009. For those 14 years, we had some very tense circumstances like this, but one thing the protesters and those who all they want to do is cause disturbances, they didn't have the social media to coordinate. And for a city that's, almost 300 square miles, it really stretches the resources because these people can go anywhere. And it's very disturbing to see people who are coming into our city and a few people who live in our city whose main purpose is to cause disturbance.
Governor,
we've had this before, and I feel the city of Charlotte will be resilient, strong enough to handle it.
Do we need a curfew, Governor?
I'm going to let the mayor and the chief respond to those questions. I will say this, when I was mayor in the past, I wasn't hesitant to call a curfew whatsoever, but I'm not on the ground and it's not appropriate for me as governor to make that call.
We are going to talk to the mayor in just a little bit. Hopefully, we have just been in touch with her, Governor. We had talked to police who had said it could take up to 3 hours to get this National Guard deployed. Do you know if that's an accurate timeline? We are looking at these live pictures. I know you can't see them, Jamie said that, but there are cars being stopped on I-277, about 50 or 75 people coming into this highway before midnight. It is still a traveled road at this hour, stopping cars. There are obviously resources needed. What is your best guess on timeline for the National Guard?
I'm going to let the chief of the police. I think it would be inappropriate for me to say over the air exactly where each of our deployments are going and the time span for it. I'm just saying that we've got both troopers from the Highway Patrol immediately getting on locations in certain areas, and we've got guard coming from all parts of the state. And but you've got to remember, we've got to make sure they get to the right place. And we're following the directive of the police chief. He is in charge. We're providing assets, and typically the assets we provide are to protect infrastructure so the police of Charlotte then can come in and make the appropriate arrest.
Governor McCrory,
and that's how the structure is set up. Thank
you so much for your time. We know you are talking with lots of people tonight, and it does break your heart as it does ours. We all love this city, so thank you very much.
Well, let's pray for our city and pray for peace, and do not praise or expose the violence that just want to go on TV. It's just, it's unacceptable.
Mayor Jennifer Roberts have been trying to get up with her all night, and she is on the phone right now. Mayor, we know you've had a busy evening. It's your city as much as it is all of ours. What are you watching right now? Are you seeing what we're seeing on I-277?
I am not currently watching the video feed, but I have seen some of it and been watching most of it this evening. And it is not the Charlotte we know. This is not the Charlotte I grew up in. And you know, Charlotte's a place where we have come together, we work together, we get our community leaders, our faith leaders, and our business leaders, and we solve problems together. And I'm hoping that we can return to that kind of community. We have called repeatedly for calm, for nonviolence, for peaceful protests. The family of Mr. Scott has also called for peaceful protests. So I am just sending out this plea again. We are going to work very hard to keep our community safe and our officers safe, and that is a top priority. We are urging people to be calm.
Mayor, if you would please walk us through the decision, the process that went into the governor then declaring this state of emergency.
Well, we are looking at the resources that we have. We're looking at how we protect property, how we keep our streets open, and how we make sure that we are able to function as our force in all areas of the city. And when we look at trying to operate in different sections of the Uptown at the same time to make sure everybody is safe, we decided that it was appropriate to declare a state of emergency. And so I have signed that request. The county commission chair has signed that, and the governor is in agreement. and we're going to get additional resources to help protect our city.
Two things, Mayor. You say additional resources. Is that the National Guard?
That is the National Guard.
Okay, we have heard they're coming in about 3 hours. They should be in place. What is the strategy at this point that you can at least relay, whether it's coming from the city or with CMPD? We know you're working together. You had the joint press conference this morning. But what at this point is the strategy? As of last night, it was to de-escalate and not make many arrests. They made one. What is the strategy that you can say right now? Because we've seen a lot of actions, criminal acts happening live on camera, and there haven't been many arrests. What can you tell us about that?
Well, one of the things that the National Guard will help us do is they protect those buildings and those businesses that we want to make sure that, I know there's been images of broken glass, and we want to make sure we're able to protect those buildings, but then also be proactive in arresting people who are violating the law. And having the National Guard here will allow us to do that. We do plan to hold people accountable.
Mayor, if I could ask you too, we just asked the governor about this after he declared the state of emergency. Should a curfew be enacted? Is that something you're considering?
That is actually something that I will discuss with the city manager and the police chief. Certainly it is a possibility under a state of emergency, and we will have those discussions. We are going to try to get full information out in terms of our uptown area for tomorrow so that people know, what streets will be open, how things will operate. We're working very hard to get that plan in place.
Mayor Roberts, just so you know, we are now looking at live pictures of the light rail. It had gone from I-277, and now rioters, it's more than protesters, have moved into the light rail, and we're seeing things being thrown and a lot of running. Body cam video from the shooting yesterday. I'm transitioning to this because you put out a tweet earlier tonight, or the city of Charlotte put out a tweet earlier tonight, that you're going to be able to see the video. It did not specify dash cam or body cam, but you're going to be able to see the video of this shooting tomorrow. What video are you going to see?
Well, I'm not sure it will be tomorrow. We are still working through the investigation and working through appropriate procedures, respecting some of the family's wishes and understanding the different perspectives that there will be from the different cameras. So I'm not certain it'll be tomorrow, but I hope it will be very soon. And we also are not certain that, again, every angle, again, we don't know how close those pictures are, how clear they are, and we need to work through all that as well. So my concern, I have not seen it, and I don't know when I'll be seeing it. My concern is that we are not sure how clear it will be. And I want people to know that we are going to make sure that our investigation is thorough and it's transparent, and that we show it's the highest integrity, and that the conclusion is understood and accepted by all.
Is that going to be something where you see the video and then tell everybody what you see, or you're able to then share the video with the city?
While there's an ongoing investigation, we are not able to disclose information, pieces of evidence, or parts of that until the investigation is concluded. So I don't have a time frame for that as to when we might be able to release more of that. And again, we're not sure how comprehensive that will be, but we want to make sure that the public knows and the family knows that we will be thorough and that we will be transparent and make sure that this investigation has the highest integrity.
What do you have, Brigida?
First up, Jamie, we want to talk about a statement from Attorney General Roy Cooper on the events that unfolded in Charlotte tonight. I believe we have that up. He says, quote, "Violence will not bring justice. I urge everyone in Charlotte tonight to heed the call for peaceful demonstration," end quote. So the Attorney General making that statement probably within the past 90 minutes or so. Also want to show you some photos here from social media. If we can pull up Apple TV, folks. Here we go. This is at Buffalo Wild Wings at the NASCAR Hall of Fame right there in Uptown. You can see the left side of your screen. That is a flat screen television that has been damaged. And then on the other side of the screen, you see another TV that has been working there. So rioters, I think we can call them that at this point, got to the Buffalo Wild Wings at NASCAR Hall of Fame. Want to show you another picture, more Broken glass here, windows shattered. This again at Buffalo Wild Wings, right there next to the NASCAR Hall of Fame. Folks from our partners, news partners at the Charlotte Observer tweeted these photos out. And one more here. This is actually the new offices of the Charlotte Observer. And you can see glass shattered and then broken glass there in the picture. So just more images of what these rioters have done. I think we've moved past the point of calling them protesters. Jamie, I know you've been saying that. But I think we stopped the protesting long ago. So just wanted to get you guys up to date on what we're seeing here on social media.